Here's my ranking of the New 52 Batman run, volume by volume. Starting with the very last volume, Volume 10, Epilogue, just didn't do anything for me. This series deserved a much better send-off, a better ending, a more climactic ending, more closure. There's a lot of stuff this needed to do that it didn't deliver on. A few little short stories that lacked cohesiveness and just didn't really do anything for me. Last place. In 9th place, we got Volume 9. In 8th place, we got Volume 8. And in 7th place, we got Volume 6. Again, this stuff didn't do anything for me. I don't really care to see Jim Gordon as Batman. I'm reading a Batman comic because I want to read about Bruce Wayne and Batman. For what it was worth, it was fine. Bloom didn't do anything for me. The villain was weird. The story just felt weird. It didn't feel very Batman-esque. It feels like they were trying to do a little too much. And Volume 6, The Graveyard Shift, the best thing about it, I think, was, kind of dealing with the death of Damian, and the inclusion of other characters was great. But again, a bunch of little short stories, didn't feel very cohesive, didn't feel like it lived up to the greatness of what we got in this New 52 run. In 6th place, we got Volume 5. This is Zero Year Dark City. It's the second volume of the Zero City arc. The Riddler has taken control of Gotham. I didn't love the inclusion of that crazy biological villain thing, monster creature. And the whole series, or the whole volume here, it gets a little too much. I would have preferred a more grounded detective take. But there's a lot going on here, and it was just a little too much, and it didn't do as good as the setup, the first volume of Zero Year, but still pretty solid. In 5th place, we got Volume 7, Endgame, the second confrontation with the Joker. I love how, as the series progresses, the Joker story actually steps backwards, and we get back to basics with the Joker story, something we're more familiar with compared to the first Joker conflict, which is Death of the Family. But this is pretty solid. There's a lot of Justice League members. The Joker feels like he's very, very dangerous. I mean, he always is, but he's really on point in this one. And the ending fight is so brutal, so visceral. It's just one of the better Joker vs. Batman stories. In 4th place, we have Volume 2. This is an essential edition, so this collects Volume 1 and 2, which combines both of the Court of Owls stories into one collection. But Volume 2 is 4th place. It's the ending of the Court of Owls story. Again, I like the setup better than the conclusion. It's still really awesome. 4th place is not bad, right? And I just love the villains here. I love the struggle Batman has to go through. I love that he's dealing with a new villain that he doesn't know anything about, when he usually knows all these villains that we see in these stories, and he kind of understands how to tackle that conflict. Here, he doesn't really know, so he has to figure it out along the way. There is a lot of action. The Court of Owls are pretty scary. I love it when he finally faces the Talon. So really solid villain, good action, good story, diving into the legacy of the Waynes and Gotham. So the last part of Court of Owls is still really solid. And in 3rd place, we got Zero Year. This is Volume 4, so the first volume of the Zero Year arc. I love seeing Batman trying to figure out how to be Batman. I love the inclusion of the Red Hood gang. I love seeing Edward Nygma before he really becomes the Riddler. That's a lot of fun. There's just a lot of good stuff here. Bruce, the resourcefulness here and how he decides to become Batman, what he does with some of his family members, whether or not he wants to bring Bruce Wayne back to the public eye or not. There's just a lot of really great old Batman lore here in the very early days of Batman, like right when he comes back to Gotham. And the ending will really get you excited for the second part of Zero Year. In 2nd place, we got Volume 3, Death of the Family. This is one of my absolute favorite Batman vs. Joker conflicts. They really lean into the horror element. There's a couple pages in the Gotham police station where the lights go out and Joker starts doing some pretty scary stuff, and it's one of the few comics that I've read where I actually felt like a little bit of fear. Like, they just did a great job at portraying the horror aspect and how scary Joker can be. He's got his freaking face ripped off. His design has changed a little bit here. Just a really solid Batman vs. Joker conflict. All the Bat family gets involved towards the end of it. And there's a really cool, little piece of drama as to why the Joker knows where Batman lives and stuff like that. It's kind of a secret that Batman didn't share with the Bat family, and I love the drama and tension behind that. So Joker vs. Batman at its best. And in 1st place, we got Volume 1, the introduction to the Court of Owls. It gets more into the detective side of things, Batman trying to figure out who these villains are, whereas the second volume, the second part of Court of Owls, gets a little more on the fantastical side. But volume 1, back to basics with Batman, just trying to figure things out, being a solid detective, seeing him get attacked as Bruce Wayne by all these Talons, figuring out some deep levels of corruption. The history of Gotham, the history of the Wayne legacy is all part of this book, and it's just feels like classic Batman, and it's so cool to be introducing these brand new villains in a world where Batman's used to knowing how to take on his villains, but these guys are brand new. He doesn't know what to do, and seeing him try to figure it out is a blast. I think the Hellbat armor gets introduced in this, I'm not sure, but the use of it is pretty solid. The one main Talon versus Batman is awesome. Bruce Wayne getting attacked by all these Talons is awesome. It's just a blast. Definitely a classic Batman run. So the first volume of the New 52, #1. Here's my volume by volume ranking of the whole New 52 Batman and Robin comic book series. Easy last place for me is volume 5. They mess with Two-Face's origin in a ridiculous way that didn't need to be touched, and Two-Face doesn't do much here. The story doesn't do much here. Not compelling, not a lot to love. Robin's not even in it, so last place. Second to last is volume 2. Damian is, we all know he's a huge dick, but he takes it way over the top with the Bat family here. It's not that fun to see him be that much of a dick to the Bat family. There is some cool stuff. You see him as a young child being trained as an assassin with his mom in the League of Shadows. So that's pretty cool. Otherwise, not a lot of cool stuff going on, and just a lot of Damian being a dick. Next, we got volume 7, the conclusion of the series. This one has some cool stuff in it, like Batman's Hellbat armor, going to Apocalypse, fighting the armies of Apocalypse. That is a lot of fun, but Damian ends up getting powers, and that's just, I don't want to see the Bat family with actual powers. It gets way too outlandish. There's nothing grounded or detective-oriented at all. There's no Gotham, none of that. It's like superhero action with the Bat family, which is not really my favorite, but it's still a lot of fun in its own way. Next, we got volume 3. So this starts out with a really heartfelt, cool scavenger hunt that Damian puts Bruce on, has to do with his parents and their kind of legacy, and it's pretty emotional, and I loved it. There's also a really cool issue with Damian showing his tactical superiority over an experienced military man. That's a lot of fun. So there's good stuff. There's also the Joker and Damian have a conversation about how ridiculous the dynamic of Batman and Robin are. How no matter who the Robin is, it's just a ridiculous thing that Batman has these teenagers fighting with him. So a lot of good stuff here. It's getting pretty solid. Let's get to the top 3. In third place, we got volume 6. And spoiler alert, Damian does die, and that's in Batman Incorporated. It's not in this series. In this series, at one point, Damian's just dead. And the priority here is getting his body back from Ra's al Ghul. There's a ton of Justice League members, a ton of really good action, non-stop action, and at the ending of it will get you pumped for the finale. In second place, we got volume 4. This is about Batman trying to figure out a way to revive Damian, and he is darker and angrier than usual. It's pretty satisfying to see that kind of emotion out of Batman. He's tearing it up. He even dissects Frankenstein to try to learn about bodies and figure out a way to revive Damian. There's also a really emotional moment with Alfred at the very end, and this is a really good read. And in first place, we got volume 1. It's just really nice to see Damian and Batman together as Batman and Robin, because before this, the only Batman and Robin stuff we got, Damian was with Dick Grayson as Batman, and that was still cool, but something just feels so right about this comic. They nail the character dynamic. They nail Batman. It's like this book really understands what the fans want out of a Batman comic. There's a cool villain named Nobody who's used pretty well. And that's just the story between Batman and Robin, some of their conflicts, some of their good teamwork, how well they work together. It's just a really, really solid Batman comic.